A million balls. I guess there's only one tool for the job. The Data-Oriented Technology Stack, or DOTS, is basically a super optimized system for running games. You can run hundreds of thousands of objects without really breaking a sweat, compared to the older systems which would fail almost immediately. I have never made a game using dots before, and I was keen on trying it out. You get to do some cool stuff like multi-threading, basically running your games on the multiple cores of your device, as well as the entity component system, which replaces the previously used game objects. Well, let's make a game. Let's try the simple game, Pong. What could go wrong? After installing all of the packages needed, I started working on the basics. Paddles, walls, and balls. After getting the paddles moving and balls bouncing, I went to the next step, adding points when a ball is let through. After that I tried adding some squishing as the balls speed up over time. Scaling the balls proved a small nightmare to do, but I eventually got it working. I also didn't just want to make Pong with a lot of balls, so I decided to put my own spin on it. Each player controls 2 paddles now. Or I guess you could just have 4 players playing. The goal is to let as few balls through as possible. Afterwards, I added some particle effects that spawn whenever a player lets a ball through. Finally, I added some visual improvement. I changed some colors and made this cool reflective background using render textures, which basically repeat what the camera sees over and over. I tried to add a menu as a separate scene, but when working with dots, I guess the answer is no. I ended up just doing it all in the same scene. Oh well.
Yeah, so playing with like a million balls or 100,000 balls is just not going to be good because this is what 2000 looks like, and there's clearly no skill involved here. But it would make good clickbait.
Well, the game is done.
Yay!
Awesome! Hooray! Hooray! Woohoo! That's great. Okay, let's look at some stats. Mind you, the frames per second is not just dependent on the number of balls, as they each also spawn particles. Also, I was screen recording. But it should give you an idea of how powerful dots is, at least on my bad computer. With 1,000 balls, it was choppy but acceptable. Any less was perfect, by the way. With 10,000, I had 3 to 5 frames per second. With 100,000 balls, I got a frame every 3 seconds, and with 1,000,000 balls, I got a frame every 6 to 7 seconds. Sadly, even with dots, there will always be a number of balls that overwhelm my computer. Oh well. So, working with dots was a very interesting experience. It's somehow simultaneously quite familiar and somewhat foreign. Most of the code had an equivalent function you could use, and they're basically the same, but it's obviously a bit more optimized for performance. One thing that struck me though is that the data-oriented technology stack is very stubborn. You have to do things exactly their way, otherwise it's going to throw some obscure error and you have no idea how to fix it. I'm not going to be using dots for every project, but it certainly is very useful being able to easily handle hundreds of thousands of entities, and the ability of multi-threading is also very appealing to many people. Now of course you don't have to go full dots, You can also, of course, just use some of the packages. For example, if you only want to do stuff with the multi-threading, you can definitely do that. But of course, if you're using one dots package, you might as well use them all. If you want to try using dots in a game, go ahead. It's certainly a very cool experience. I followed a tutorial that helped me a lot along the way. One thing I noticed is that there wasn't an extraordinary amount of documentation. Normally whenever you encounter an error, you can just Google it and get a bunch of answers on how to solve it. But you don't really get the same thing happening here with dots because it's still in its previous state. I'm just used to searching and immediately finding the answer, I guess, but here that wasn't the case. Basically, this stuff is not as nice, but it's certainly more powerful, and you can do specifically what you want to do. Ultimately, it's more work, but it's more powerful. So the trade-off is yours to choose. All these packages are still very much in their previous state, so it's only going to get better, and I certainly can't wait for them to improve. So, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, and if you really enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe. It's free, and it really helps me out. Thanks for watching.
I just think it might be the best strat to literally just stay in the middle, which is kind of funny.